Here's Bryan's skin routine. I think parts of it are great and parts of it are pretty bad. Here's a rundown of everything, and just so you know, I personally do think that what he's doing is amazing. You may not like what he's doing in certain aspects or think he's achieved anything special anywhere, but I do, because this plan of his is more than just personal gain. The amount of attention that he's going to bring to this field of research by bringing it to the public's attention in this way will inevitably drive more research to be done, which in turn has the potential to help so many people in the future with so many aging related conditions. I fully take my hat off to him and his doctor, even if I think some of what he's doing could be better, as I'm about to show you. Here's the skincare to start with. The cleanser and sunscreen are pretty standard, and I don't think anyone would have a problem with these. The CeraVe cleanser is nice, especially for acne patients who want something cheap, but still contains the beta-hydroxy acids to clean out the pores. The sun cream is from Elta MD. It's a pretty high SPF, and it has zinc to reflect away the UV rays, which is great. I wouldn't say this is the absolute best sun cream, because the best that you can get is going to be different for you as an individual based on your individual skin. After that, then we've got the body moisturizer. Now, as some of you will know from previous videos on this channel, I literally never use a moisturizer and I never have dry skin. If you want to understand how that works, I'll link to that video in the description below and in the corner here. But essentially, 100% of the hyaluronic acid in the product's application can't necessarily penetrate to the depth that you need it to by being rubbed in on top. This is common knowledge in the scientific community. And if you reduce the molecular weight to try and combat this, then you create a different effect altogether. Potentially, definitely, you do create a different effect because you have a different type of signal transduction happening with the CD44 receptor in the skin. And it's not opinion either. This is an absolute fact that different weights of HA cause different signals into the cells. There's so much nonsense out there on HA, in fact, whether it be for skincare, automer fillers, or skin boosters, or even something else. To fight that, I am about to release a very, very, very detailed video that goes into more depth on this topic than anywhere else in the world that I've seen, so stay tuned. Then we've got this cream called Adipo, which is designed to bring fat back into the places that it's been lost from. It seems to be the skincare version of the Renuva injectable I made a video on recently, which I'll link below. The images on the website do look pretty impressive. The only downside is it takes such a long time to develop significant results. However, it is just skincare at the end of the day. So that's what you should expect, and it's still quite impressive actually that a cream can bring fat back into an atrophied fat pad. Now, all his changes are analyzed using something called a Visia scanner. You'll find this in a number of clinics, and it's a great device. The issue, though, is something which Bryan seems to be oblivious to. It shows generalized visuals of the skin in different modes like pore size and redness. That's all fine, but for the absolute best picture of the skin's physiology, a biopsy and histological analysis is what you need. Now, some of you might say that that's too far because you can just use this machine instead. I disagree, because in a context like this, Bryan's trying to prove how anti-aging the routine is. In order to do that, you need to be able to check out specific things like collagen density and cell density, cell numbers. That's not possible if all you have is a generalized camera view with different filters. There's another really important reason why this scanner doesn't actually show him what he's after, and I'll explain that now. Let's look at the next device, which is the BTL Exilis. It's a radio frequency device, an RF device. And in my opinion, it is just an opinion, a terrible one at that. It's not really anti-aging. Anti-aging means you're preventing processes associated with aging from starting. Radio frequency doesn't do that in my opinion because it simply tries to alleviate the symptoms of aging instead. It causes coagulation inside the skin using heat. Think of it as making a scab inside the skin, and the body takes the scab away to leave behind brand new tissue. The main issue here is important to understand because it's something that I think he's massively missed out on. This replacement of tissue by causing coagulation doesn't physiologically increase difficult to make structures in the skin like specific types of collagen like type 4 and 7, which are the ones that tighten the two layers of the skin together and stop them getting loose over time. This is a fact of anatomy, and also at the end of the day, there's only so much you can achieve by constant coagulation or damage of any kind. Do you realistically think that repeated damage to the skin is anti-aging? There's much better options out there. I've also met people that have this device in their clinic and they've personally told me that they're just really not impressed with it compared to other RF devices, at least. Now and again, I even find a lot of used ones for sale, and I'm not surprised that the clinic selling it wants to get rid of it. Next up is the Saluma LED device. Now, LED, as I'm sure some of you know on this channel, is something I advocate very much when it comes to non-invasive and non-surgical treatments, but there are wide differences between them. The Saluma, factually speaking, does not have the medical CE licenses to treat things like psoriasis, unlike, say, Dermalux. Again, this is not an opinion. This is a fact that you can gladly check for yourself. I know Bryan doesn't have psoriasis, so you might be thinking, well, why does that matter then? It matters because in order to be able to get a medical CE license like that, the entire device has to be nothing short of exceptional in every aspect, including clinical efficacy. I'm not going to go on and give any opinion about the LED here, because for some reason, some of you seem to think that me giving facts like statistics makes me biased, even though numbers in their very nature are purely objective and have nothing to do with opinion. If you're interested in how LED devices create radiation, I'll link a video in the description and in the corner here for you. We can extend this section on the LED to the panels that he uses too, where he kind of stands and he's got a panel in front and a panel behind. Now, because I'm still going to keep my opinion out of it so I can show you objectively the facts, he would be able to give himself more biological change from more photoreceptor interactions. This is nothing to do with any brand, this is just biology. The more sunshine you expose yourself to, the more vitamin D you can make. It's just a fact. This translates in a mathematical way to mean higher energy dose relative to wavelength as well. For those that want more detail, the mathematical translation is that the energy is inversely proportional to the wavelength by a factor of the product of Planck's constant and the speed of light in a vacuum. And again, factually speaking, so no opinion involved, the Dermalux TriWave MD is the most powerful LED device in the world across both in a single session of 1200 seconds and also in a maintenance of output at that peak optical intensity continuously for 80,000 hours. So before all the haters comment again, please do some research and try to prove me wrong on those facts. And if you think, who cares about using it for 80,000 hours continuously, then honestly, I think you may have missed the point of it, in that if it's capable of that, then it means the clinical use is unmatched too. Hence why it has unique medical licenses that no other LED device has ever qualified for. Another fact. Even if another device can maybe get close to the same energy level, how long can it actually give you that for? Is the energy even from the clinically relevant radiation by doing things like, say, a calculation of the integral of the inevitably parabolic spectral function? These are questions to ask about LED devices that I haven't seen any other YouTuber or doctor ever mention. Now, in my opinion, and yes, this is an opinion now, by the way, if Bryan was to get a couple of TriWave MDs and put them either side of him, he'd get more of an effect. Before I go on too long, let's talk about the final thing and why I think his Visia scanner, the machine, doesn't show everything, like I said earlier. This is important if you've ever had this done in a clinic yourself. You see, people talk about restoring collagen, but what a lot of people don't realize is that there's 28 different types of collagen. You can't just increase all of them because it's actually potentially dangerous too. For instance, type 16 is only found in the upper superficial parts of the dermis layer, as far as I'm aware, and only during times like cancer is it found all throughout the dermis layer. So it's very important to state which types are being increased. Now, I have a video on this that is so detailed that it's about 3 hours to give you the full and proper answer. I think it's important to have that because you can't watch a YouTube video that's the length of a typical attention span and have all the knowledge you need to think you're an expert and make a valid scientific criticism. There's honestly so much more to it than anything that anyone can fit in a single YouTube video. I'll link to it below and place it in the corner here, but if you're truly interested, that is. Now, for the context of Bryan's video, tightening the skin relies on proteins like collagen 17, 4, 7, laminins, etc., etc. The Visia, as great a scanner as it is, and I mean that, it can't show you that because that's not what it's designed for. If you was to try and increase tightness, the first thing to do is academically look at the anatomy of what actually gives tightness. And that's not just for him, for you guys too. If you do that, you'll find structures like those that I've already mentioned. I'm not going to say a particular injectable product that does it better than any other because I'll sound like a broken record. But remember that video, I'll link below, that video teaches the anatomy for that part of the skin. If you comment down below asking for the injectable that has this pattern for the maximal physiological increase of these tightening structures, I'm happy to reply to those of you that specifically want to know. But we'll move on to something called the Cyton BBL, which he already has. BBL is broadband light. I'm not going to say too much on this other than the fact that whoever told him to get it has given him absolutely fantastic advice. It really is genuinely one of the best cosmetic treatments anyone in the world can do, and I highly advise you to check it out. It's not cheap, but you do get what you pay for. I actually know some of the people at Cyton now after I've spent so long complimenting them again and again on this channel, and even the team behind the device are genuinely brilliant people. Instead of spending money repeatedly on home devices, do consider having a look at something like Cyton BBL instead, maybe once a year or 2 years, something like that. The routine overall has received some criticism from other medical professionals, just like I've constructively criticized parts of it here, but there are parts of it that are absolutely fantastic too. And I seriously want to thank Bryan and his advisor for using their reach to bring so much attention to this field of research, because hopefully with more exposure, we can have more study and we can help huge numbers of people with subsequent discoveries in the future. If either of them are watching, I'd love to have a chat about any of the things I mentioned in this video, and I'd be more than happy to share data on anything I've said too.